Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Do people do people really need convincing to save money?
It sounds kind of odd, doesn't it? Especially now.
Right. But looking at the material we've got for you today, it seems, well, surprisingly, yeah, a lot of people do.
Hmm.
So this deep dive, it's really for two groups we identified from the sources. First, there are those folks who think they can't save. Like, it's just not possible for them.
And the second group.
Maybe even more surprising is the people who think they don't actually need to save.
Ah, okay. So we're challenging both assumptions today.
Exactly. That's the mission. To dig into these ideas and, uncover some deeper truths about building wealth. And here's the main argument, the thing that jumps right out.
What's that?
It's that building wealth, it really has surprisingly little to do with your income or even your investment returns, honestly.
Okay, so if not those, then what?
It's almost everything to do with your savings rate,
Yeah.
how much you actually keep.
Right, the gap.
Yeah, exactly. And we're also going to touch on some almost profound benefits of saving that aren't just about buying more stuff, things you can't easily measure.
What's really fascinating, I think, is how the sources just immediately shift your focus,
Yeah.
away from the usual things like markets or pay rises.
Yeah, they pivot you inwards
Right.
towards what you can actually control.
Exactly. It's a different perspective from the get-go.
And that shift, that's where it gets really interesting. So the first big idea that kind of popped out from the material is the power of efficiency.
Efficiency, okay.
Yeah, think back to like the 1970s. There was this widespread panic, a genuine fear that we were running out of oil.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that. The projections looked pretty dire.
Totally. Global demand was shooting up, supply looked fixed, and everyone was bracing for like an energy apocalypse.
But, well, obviously that didn't happen. We're still here.
Thankfully, no.
Yeah.
But the research we looked at points out something interesting. It wasn't just about finding huge new oil fields or some magical extraction tech.
So what was the main driver then?
A huge part of it, maybe the biggest, was just getting way more efficient. We learned how to do more with less energy.
Right. Using less to achieve the same or even more.
Precisely. Get this.
Yeah.
The U.S. today uses something like 60% less energy for every dollar of GDP compared to 1950.
Wow, 60%. That's huge.
It is. We're producing way more economic value with much less energy. Or look at cars. Fuel efficiency. The average MPG for all cars on the road, it's basically doubled since '75.
So these aren't just small tweaks. It's a fundamental change.
Exactly. A systemic shift in how we use energy.
And that really connects to this idea of control, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, finding new oil or gas, that's largely out of our individual hands, right? It depends on geology, global politics, markets, stuff we don't directly influence.
Yeah.
But becoming more efficient with the energy we already have access to, that's almost entirely within our control. Deciding to buy a more fuel-efficient car or choosing to walk or bike sometimes.
Yeah, those are personal choices.
Yeah.
They have a guaranteed impact on your personal energy efficiency.
So how does this whole efficiency principle map onto personal finance, building wealth?
Well, it's the exact same dynamic, isn't
Ah.
it? Look, investment returns, yeah, they can definitely make you rich, no doubt. But the success of any strategy, how long it lasts, what the market does next year, that's all shrouded in uncertainty. It's largely outside your direct control.
Right. You can't predict the market with certainty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what the material emphasizes is that personal savings and frugality, which they basically call the financial version of conservation and efficiency, those are the parts you do control, almost completely.
Okay, I see the parallel now.
Yeah, they have a 100% chance of being just as effective tomorrow as they are today. If you think building wealth needs huge investment wins or a constantly soaring income, you might feel like those energy doomers back in the 70s.
Pessimistic, like it's out of your hands.
Right. Daunting. But frame it differently. If you see wealth building as being powered by your own frugality, your own efficiency.
Then the path looks much clearer, more empowering, maybe.
Absolutely. Because wealth, at its core, it's just what's left over after you spend what you earn. It's the leftovers.
Simple when you put it like that.
And here's a key insight from the sources. You can definitely build wealth without a huge income. It's possible, but you have basically zero chance, like none, of building lasting wealth without a high savings rate.
So that really tells you which factor is more critical, doesn't it?
It really does. The lever you can actually pull.
And there's another layer here too, right? About value. The real value of wealth is always relative to what you actually need.
Explain that a bit more.
Okay, imagine two people, same net worth on paper, but one person has cultivated, let's say, a more efficient life, They need half as much money to be happy compared to the other person whose spending keeps creeping up.
Right, lifestyle inflation.
Exactly. The more efficient person, the one who needs less, they're actually better off, wouldn't you say? Even if their investment returns are lower, their money goes further because their needs are lower.
That makes sense. It applies to income too, then.
For sure. Learning to be genuinely happy with less money, that creates a gap. A gap between what you have and what you want or need.
And that gap is kind of the same engine for wealth as just earning more money.
Yeah, but it's often easier to control, easier to achieve for many people, much more in your personal control.
So a high savings rate, it's not just about piling up cash. It means you probably have lower expenses than you could have.
Which means your savings go further, they have more impact.
Think about all the effort, right?
Yeah.
Millions of hours, billions of dollars spent by finance pros trying to eke out maybe an extra fraction of a percent in annual returns.
Yeah, a huge industry focused on that.
Now compare that effort to, say, trimming maybe 2 or 3% of lifestyle bloat, things people could cut without much real struggle.
It's a stark contrast when you put it like that. Much easier for an individual to control the spending side.
It's a huge opportunity, really. Look, big returns and big paychecks are great, obviously, if you can get them.
Of course, we're not saying they don't matter.
No, but the fact that so much energy goes into that side of the equation, income and returns, and comparatively little goes into the personal efficiency side, the frugality.
That's where the accessible opportunity lies for most people.
Exactly. And this leads to something surprisingly deep, actually.
Oh.
Past a certain income level, what you need financially, it's often just what sits below your ego's demands.
Whoa. Okay. Unpack that. Ego.
Yeah, the material suggests that spending beyond a certain point, beyond basic comfort and security, a lot of it is just ego. Trying to signal wealth or keep up with the neighbors,
Looking up at the Joneses, basically.
pretty much. So it makes this powerful point. One of the most effective ways to seriously boost your savings isn't always raising your income. It's raising your humility, learning to need less validation from possessions.
Wow. Okay, so saving isn't just financial, it's psychological. When you frame it as the gap between your ego and your income.
It suddenly makes sense why people with good incomes still struggle to save, right?
Yeah, it's like this constant internal battle, this pressure to flash your feathers, so to speak, match everyone else.
Totally. And the forces often highlight this. People who achieve lasting financial success, they aren't always the highest earners.
What do they have in common then?
They tend to have this knack for genuinely not caring what other people think about their car, their house, their spending choices.
A kind of indifference to external judgment. That's interesting.
So it becomes clear, doesn't it? Your ability to save, it's way more in your control than you might think.
Because you can spend less.
If you desire less.
And you will desire less.
If you care less about what others think. It really boils down to psychology more than spreadsheets, according to this research.
Okay, so that covers the I can't save group. Saving is possible, maybe more possible than people realize by managing desires and ego.
Right. But what about that other group? The ones who feel they don't need to save. Maybe they have a good income, feel secure.
Yeah, why save if you don't have a specific goal in mind?
Well, this is where the sources uncover this sort of incalculable value to saving, something beyond just buying things.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Here's another powerful idea from the material. You don't actually need a specific reason to save.
Really? So not saving for a house or for retirement or for a car.
Those are fine, obviously, good goals.
Right.
But the emphasis here is that you can and should save just for the sake of saving.
Just building a buffer.
Exactly. And the benefits that kind of saving, this sort of goalless saving, they're profound, but often missed.
Why I missed.
Because we usually focus on the tangible things money buys, right?
Yeah.
The house, the car, the vacation.
Sure, the obvious stuff.
But the intangible returns, they're harder to see, harder to quantify, so they get overlooked.
And yet, these intangible benefits.
They can be far more valuable. They can contribute much more to your actual happiness than any specific material purchase.
So what are these intangible benefits then?
Savings without a specific goal, it just gives you options. Flexibility. The ability to wait for the right moment.
The power to say no, maybe?
Yes. And the chance to pounce when a real opportunity comes along. Crucially, it buys you time. Time to think, time to change course if you want to.
Ah, changing course on your own terms. That sounds valuable.
It is,
Yeah.
as the sources put it, like really powerfully. Every dollar you save is like reclaiming a piece of your future time that someone else might have controlled. You're giving the control back to yourself.
That flexibility, that control over your own time, that's the unseen return on wealth.
Exactly. That's the core idea.
So this raises a really interesting question the material brings up. What's the actual return on just having cash in the bank? Cash that lets you maybe switch careers or retire a bit early or just sleep better at night without constant money worries.
Right. What's the ROI on peace of mind?
The sources basically say it's incalculable.
Incalculable, meaning what exactly?
Well, two things, really. One, it's so incredibly valuable, so important, we can't really put a number on it. But also, literally, you cannot calculate it like an interest rate.
Because it's not a financial percentage.
Precisely. And things we can't easily measure, we tend to overlook or undervalue.
That makes sense. And this flexibility, this control, it becomes even more valuable in today's world, doesn't it?
How so? In what way?
Well, think about how connected everything is. Hyper-competitive, globalized. If you don't have control of your time, you're often stuck taking whatever life throws at you, good or bad.
Yeah.
Bad luck, limited options.
You're reactive, essentially.
Right. But if you have flexibility, because you saved, you have this amazing luxury, the luxury of time.
Yeah.
You can wait for the really good opportunities, the no-brainers, to come to you.
Whether that's in your job or with investments.
Both. This ability just to wait for the right moment, the right fit, it's a massive hidden return on savings. You really can't overstate it.
And it's a competitive advantage, too, one that's probably getting rarer.
Definitely. Think about it. Maybe a century ago, your main competition was probably local, right? People in your town or region.
Sure, limited pool.
Today, if your job involves working with your brain, teaching, marketing, coding, analysis, whatever, your competition isn't just local.
It's global. Millions, maybe billions of people.
Exactly. So the question becomes, how do I possibly stand out in that crowd?
And just saying I'm smart isn't really enough anymore, is it?
Not even close. There are, nearly 600 people who get perfect SAT scores every single year. Thousands more who are nearly perfect. In this global, often winner-take-all environment, those smart people are competing directly with you. Intelligence alone isn't the edge it used to be.
It's becoming table stakes almost.
You've hit on something really crucial there. In a world where pure intelligence is hyper-competitive and lots of technical skills are getting automated.
The real advantages are shifting.
Yeah, they're tilting more towards those nuanced soft skills. Things like communication, empathy, and maybe, most importantly, flexibility.
Back to flexibility.
If you have that flexibility, that buffer, you have this incredible power to wait for the truly good opportunities. In your career, in your investments.
You have time to adapt.
Exactly. You've got the breathing room to learn new skills when you need to without that feeling of desperation or panic. You feel less pressure to just chase what everyone else is chasing.
You can find your own path, maybe, at your own pace.
Yes, you can find your authentic niche, discover a different routine, maybe a slower pace. You can actually think about life with a different set of possibilities. The ability to do that, when most people are just scrambling, that's a massive differentiator.
That control over your time and your options, it really is becoming one of the most valuable currencies out there. It's more than just money.
For sure. So, okay, wrapping this up, what does all this mean for you listening right now?
Well, we've seen that building wealth, it seems, is way less about chasing some crazy high income or trying to time the market perfectly.
Yeah, it's much, much more about getting a handle on what's genuinely in your power.
Which is
your savings rate, your level of frugality, and surprisingly, even your humility, controlling the ego.
And if we look at the bigger picture here, that unseen return of saving we talked about.
That control over time and options.
It's becoming incredibly valuable in this competitive world. It's a real edge, especially when just being smart isn't enough anymore.
So it seems really clear from this deep dive. More people absolutely can save money than think they can. And they really should save money.
Not just for the obvious things like a house deposit.
No, but for this incredibly powerful, often invisible benefit. Flexibility, real control over your own life.
That's the ultimate payoff, perhaps.
It really might be.
Yeah.
You know what else people should do, though, based on some other things we've been looking at?
What's that?
Stop trying to be so perfectly rational with their money all the time. Let me tell you why.